This case in Ohio has national ramifications because if the Supreme Court sides with the state of Ohio and makes it easier to purge the voting rolls, many more states will try to do this kind of thing in the future. And people will have done nothing wrong, and they'll show up to vote, and they'll find that they're suddenly not on the voting rolls, and they won't have any recourse to do anything about it. And that's a very frightening scenario to me. Ohio has purged more voters, 2 million voters, than any other state since 2011. And what Ohio is doing now is they're removing infrequent voters. So if you sit out a few elections, you're purged from the voting rolls. Ohio has made voting a use it or lose it right. And that's not supposed to be how it works.
If you don't vote during a 2-year period, Ohio assumes that you may have moved to another county and become ineligible to vote in your county. So it sends you a notice. I'm sure everyone opens every piece of mail that they get from the State Board of Elections. If you don't do anything, if you don't return that notice, and you don't vote during the next 2 federal election cycles, you get purged from the rolls. So basically, if you sit out one midterm election, which more than half of registered voters typically do, because our turnout is so low, and you don't do anything else, you get purged. You have to, if you miss one midterm election, take affirmative steps to stay on the rolls in Ohio. What does that mean? It means that lots of eligible voters who've never moved get knocked off from the rolls just because they don't return mail from the state or the county elections boards. We won this case last year in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. As a result, there were about 7,500 people in the state of Ohio who voted in November, whose right to vote was preserved by that ruling. If we hadn't won that case, these voters who had been purged under this process would have been disenfranchised, and their ballots would have gone uncounted. Ohio doesn't dispute that any of these voters were eligible to vote, that they lived at their old address in their old county, and yet it still just didn't want to count their votes. We're now going to the Supreme Court to defend that ruling.